For rock music fans, there was only one place to be on Saturday night. The Who were back in Leeds performing at the university where, getting on for 4 decades ago, they made what's considered the greatest live album of all time. Their lyric, "Hope I Die Before I Get Old," turned out horribly prophetic for half of the band, but with substitute bass and drums, they revisited the scene of their triumph. This time, the university authorities greeted them like visiting royalty. Robin Denslow was among the ageing rockers who turned out to see history repeat itself.
We are all back!
On Saturday night, a moment of rock history. Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey, the two surviving members of The Who, are back after 36 years on the same little stage where they recorded what, from then on, has been consistently praised as the greatest live album ever. And amazingly, for rock stars now in their early 60s, this was the start of their first ever world tour. And they'd gone back to an unlikely setting that's now part of the band's history.
Now, where are the world's legendary rock venues? Well, there's the old Marquee Club in London, the Cavern in Liverpool, and in the States there's the Apollo, the Fillmore, CBGB's, the Hollywood Bowl, and then there's this one, the Refectory at Leeds University.
The student canteen has seen a whole batch of great shows. Everyone from Bob Marley to the Stones came here, but this is the album that made it famous. It was recorded on Valentine's Day 1970 and released in a plain sleeve, along with a whole batch of memorabilia showing how much the band had been earning. And this photo. The band then included the extraordinary drummer Keith Moon, who died in 1978, and that very fine bassist John Entwistle, who died 4 years ago, leaving Daltrey and Townshend to carry on. The few stills taken on the night have added to the legend of the Leeds show. But in fact, the band had recorded well over 30 earlier shows. So many, in fact, that Townshend didn't want to go through all the tapes.
I decided not to listen to them, but to record the 2 shows that were happening that weekend, which was Hull University and Leeds University, and whichever one was the best we would put out. And Hull was better, but we lost the bass. So we put out Leeds.
Live at Leeds was perfect because it was so simple. It was the raw band.
And now it's history.
Dun, 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 dun.
There's even a blue plaque unveiled by the band last Saturday in the presence of Leeds University's Vice-Chancellor and former Leeds Student and Entertainment Secretary Andy Kershaw, who had the idea for the Who's return and helped make it happen.
To my knowledge, there's been no contract, there's been no discussion about money, it's just been a verbal thing and it's all been done on goodwill and enthusiasm on everybody's part.
But Saturday night was not an exercise in nostalgia. After all, they only played one song that appeared on the original vinyl version of Live at Leeds, Substitute.
Substitute your lies for facts. I see right through your
Somewhere out there in the audience was the entertainment secretary who actually booked the band back in 1970.
36 years later, we're still talking about it, which implies to me that it hasn't been beaten as a piece of rock music.
And you're now a sheep farmer.
I'm a sheep farmer, and I'm still very interested in music.
These days, The Who have 6 musicians, with Ringo's son Zach Starkey on drums and Pino Palladino on bass, taking the place of John Entwistle. It was the shock of Entwistle's death that seems to have revitalised the band.
And I think it was such a shock that we were thrown into each other's arms and just kind of looked at each other and said, you know, Christ, you know, we really are all we've got left of the neighbourhood. I suddenly woke up and realised that we had a brand and that John had died, but we went with a new bass player, Pino, and played at the Hollywood Bowl, and nobody asked for their money back. And I suddenly realised that wasn't really about the fact that, in other words, it wasn't a band performing, it was a brand performing.
And the result, it seems, is the emergence of a brand new Who, who've been rehearsing for their first ever world tour out on the enormous soundstage at Brave Film Studios. And Pete Townsend has actually written his first new material for the band in 25 years, including a new mini-rock opera, Wire and Glass. This is Mirador, part of a story involving a band, the internet, terrorism, life, death, and the power of music.
There's some serious writing on this. Not only in the music, but in the lyrical content. There's some serious thought.
What's this one about then?
Ask him. I'm not even venturing there. Some of it I don't understand at all. Well, I try and understand it, but it doesn't interest me at all, but a lot of it really, really does.
And
Roger understands it totally?
I think Roger knows the story because he lives the story. Whether or not he understands, he feels that my narratives, as it were, are always clumsy and clunky, and I have to take that on the chin. You know, I expect they are.
The Who today are a curious blend of the old and the new. Their forthcoming album was recorded by Townsend at home on an old 8-track analogue tape machine, but he's fascinated by technology and the internet. Before every show, he pops into this caravan to make an appearance on a webcast chat show hosted by his girlfriend, singer Rachel Fuller.
Well, there's
What does
always
that
going to
word
be a
mean?
bit of inanity.
Inane, from inane.
Yeah, there's always going to be a bit of inanity.
So I'll have to-
It may look remarkably informal, but this is going out live to 50,000 people, mostly in America. At Leeds, The Who ended with an old classic. Now they're off on tour and playing at festivals alongside far younger bands.
I don't think there's anybody that we would be frightened of. Remember that we had to, you know, play alongside, you know, quantum geniuses like Sly and the Family Stone and Jimi Hendrix. And Cream, too, in their heyday.
So touring with the Arctic Monkeys doesn't worry you?
No, it doesn't. And I think, you know, I don't think they should be worried either.
It's their most furious burst of activity in a quarter of a century. But it won't, it seems, be quite like the old days.
Because it used to be a war in the Who. Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't mean to say we're going to kiss each other's asses for the tour, because I'm sure we won't be. And I still stand up for myself, don't worry.
But you've settled down as individuals, though.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. You know, Christ, I've got a bus pass now, you know. Oh, dear.
Not a single smash guitar.